We're back, aren't we?
Certainly are.
In the studio, and we've got the wonderful John Hotowka.
Yeah, or Hotowka.
Hotowka, there we go, Hotowka.
I was very impressed.
Got it nearly right. I got the first letter right and the last letter right, didn't I?
Yeah, you got some letters right,
Good,
but
good.
as Malcolm Wise would say, not necessarily in the right order.
No, exactly. But great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Been very excited to have you on.
I've got my legs crossed and everything with the excitement.
But I was just saying, it was 2 years ago since we actually saw you speak actually in public, in the real world.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago, the Business Culture Hall.
And it was a fantastic event. You was there, weren't you, Paul?
I was there. It was a great event.
Yeah, great event.
Absolutely. I was talking off air for 20 minutes outside about that event, and some of the things that we learnt about resilience that day was cracking.
Yeah, and I spoke as well, didn't I?
He did. But John, how would you know, if you was at a dinner party, right?
Yes.
You remember we're all sat around a table,
Like we are now.
right? Eating some lovely fine food.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a glass of wine, a bottle of beer. I don't know. Whatever your tipple is.
Yeah.
How would you introduce yourself if someone said, "John, what is it that you do?"
What is it that I do?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a fascinating question. Okay, so basically, I'm a speaker. I don't do any training. I don't consult. I don't do coaching. People, would you believe, hire me to stand on a stage and talk to their people about resilience and managing change. So basically, I just talk about ways of thinking to help people get through tough times and difficult times and help with their well-being.
Sounds a lot more simpler than what that actually is, though, John, didn't it?
Well, yes, but the thing is, we tend to overcomplicate life, don't we? Life tends to be generally simpler than what it actually is. But having said that, I've got this far in life, and I've just distilled down what I've learnt, and I talk really from experience more than anything else. So I'm not a scientist. I've not been to college or university. It's just the university of life, I suppose.
And what type of organisations?
I was so serious then. I
He
was impressed.
He was for a second.
I was so serious.
I think it was the word scientist.
It was that.
He threw us for a second.
It did, yeah.
I was just saying, what type of so some listeners have never heard of you before.
Am I allowed to mention names?
You coach you are, yeah, coach you
All
are.
right, fine. Okay, so I've worked for people.
Some huge organisations.
Well, I have. I mean, I've done some work for Reckitt Benckiser, Lucozade, Ribena, in fact, United Nations, or rather one of the departments of the United Nations last year. So, yeah, some pretty large organisations as well as medium organisations. And then I get to speak to some smaller events as well. But the thing is this, what do they all have in common? People. It's the human condition. And we all have challenges in life. And what I'm glad about is that I'm making some sort of a contribution and getting people to think differently so that they can work a little easier, make their lives a little easier.
But I think that's especially even more true, wouldn't you say, Paul, now with what's going on in a post-pandemic, or are we even... Is it post-pandemic? Are we still in the pandemic?
I don't think we haven't got a clue what's going on.
We haven't got a clue, have we? No. And I think this is the challenging thing, isn't it? As humans, we don't like change, but actually, I don't know if it was Darwin who said it, we have to evolve or die, don't we? It's as simple as that, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is. But at the end, right, if you think about it, before the pandemic, one of the challenges that I got when people called me saying, right, we need to speak at our event, right, what's the issue? Well, the challenge that we've got is that people are in silos and we want to work as a team, and they've got issues and challenges because it's hard work and they haven't got work-life balance. Well, 2 years later, I'm getting people saying, well, because of the pandemic, people are working in silos. And it's the same basic thing. It's the same but different.
Well, you was talking off air and you said when we went into lockdown and we had to work from home, we came into your world, John, didn't we?
Yeah,
and you've been doing it since when?
I've been working from home since 1989. And so I was saying to Paul, everybody, welcome to my world. And I was going, what's the fuss about? What's going on? What do you mean? It's all right. It's normal working from home.
But I think when you come to resilience, John, like we're saying, you had to redesign what you did. You was a beginner again from 30 odd years of experience.
Are we talking about
speaking.
when we went into lockdown?
Yeah, when we went into lockdown, you had to develop and...
Well, absolutely, because what happened was, we went into lockdown on the 23rd of June, 2020, and my diary, like a lot of speakers and trainers and a lot of people, my diary emptied overnight. So I had a nice, thriving little business. Thank you very much indeed. I'm doing all right. And next thing I know, nothing. Yeah. And for me, I thought, well, that's it. What am I going to do now? My world's obsolete because I've lost all my superpowers. And by that I mean, right, you've seen me speaking, and when I'm in front of an audience, I use magic in my presentations. I use comedy. I'm interacting with the audience. I get them involved in doing little exercises, and I don't do any training. This is part of a keynote speech.
And what I really like is the way you bring comedy into it as well.
First of all, there's several things that we've got to not discuss, but several things I need to put into perspective. First of all, when people are engaged, if people are enjoying themselves and they're having fun, they're engaged.
Yep.
If they're engaged, they're listening. If they're listening, they're more likely to take on board and remember what's been said. And if they take on board what's been said, they're going to take action. Right, especially if they're feeling bad and we're having fun. So the reason why I use the magic and the comedy, that's one of the reasons people hire me, because they want their audiences, they want their delegates to have fun. Yeah. So also it's they hire me because it's a change of pace in a program. Because I get, like, for instance, I get to speak at things like health and safety conferences, and during the day it's like death by PowerPoint. So on comes this guy, and I'm doing magic tricks, but it's not the magic tricks that's important, because my magic tricks actually punctuate the points that I'm making. So I'm talking about mindset. I'm talking about resilience. I'm talking about how can we be more productive. So if we're talking, for instance, like focus, I didn't do this at the event that you spoke at, but if we're talking about focus, I'll get somebody up on stage. I'll do a magic trick where everybody in the audience can see how the trick is done, except the guy on stage. And the guy on stage is the one focusing at this trick. And yet they haven't got a clue what's happening, but everybody else can see what's happening. So now we can say, right, so how come everybody else could see it, but this guy couldn't? Because he's focusing in the wrong place. So let's talk about focus. So if we have a challenge or a problem, like you were talking about this pig wrestling, right, we're focusing on the problem. No, we need to change that thinking so that we're focusing on the solution. So it's a way, and it helps the audience to think, so when we talk about problem focus or solution focus, they'll remember that illustration.
Yeah, and he does it so
brilliantly, absolutely fantastic. And like you say, because it's so funny and it's relatable, and you take it in, it does stay there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that's the other thing. The other thing is, I'm just an ordinary guy. I've not climbed a mountain. I don't have an Olympic medal. I have not run a multi-billion-pound business or anything. And because I've just had straightforward. Do you have straightforward challenges in your life? I mean, I've not had any hardship as such, but I've had challenges in my life. And the majority of my challenges have been self-made. And by that, I mean, it's been because of the way I thought. And for most of us, okay, we might have redundancy. We might have crises like relationship crisis or health crisis or whatever. But we tend to think about them in such a way that we think, it's the end of the world. And quite often it isn't if we just change that little bit of focus.
Yeah, and I think in the work we do in suicide prevention and mental health, I think the thing that I'm starting to see in terms of doing it 5 years now, a lot of different people coming through the door, it's about the power of the man, that self-image, that self-image.
Absolutely.
Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and suicide, I've been at the point, I'm glad to say, not suicide, where I've been suicidal. I think we've all been at that point where in the of a morning we think, I don't want to get out of bed. Because if I get out of bed, the world's going to beat me up. And and I've also had those thoughts where I don't want to be here because I'm not interested in what's happening because it's all so bad. But I've never been at the point where I've thought, right, well, I'm going to take my life. So I can't even begin to imagine, but what must be going through somebody's head like that?
Well, we did a big facilitator training last week, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think there was 294 I counted at one point of men on there who helped us open the doors. We're just about to open a 100 club, doing some training, and the 5 questions sort of designed in it. We asked 5 questions, but the interesting thing is we sort of pass a ball, a bit like we're doing now, pass a ball, and you're only allowed to speak when you've got that ball. And also the key point is, if you've got a problem, it's not my job to try and fix you or help you. No. It's just my job to listen to you and then let you speak and pass the ball, right? So it's a really interesting concept when we train facilitators, because naturally, if someone's in distress or talking in distress, people want to
help.
Yeah.
But it's that age-old, thing. What we say is, no one can save you. The only person who can save you is
yourself.
Yeah.
Because when I speak at the end, near the end of a presentation, I'll turn around and I'll say, right, by a show of hands, have I said anything new? Would you agree that I've not said anything new? And almost everybody's hands goes up. So, right, okay. By a show of hands, would you agree with this following statement, that everything I've said makes sense? Yeah, the hands stay up. Okay, fine. By a show of hands, just tell me if you agree with this statement. Would you agree that what I've said works? And the hands remain up. I said, just another show of hands, how many of us do it? And we know, because there is nothing that we don't know. We know it, but do we put it into action? One of the greatest talents we have as human beings is forgetting.
Yeah.
I agree.
I agree.
So what is going on there? And okay, you've heard it here first, folks. One of the reasons why I talk about what I talk about is because I'm talking to me. I need reminding of this stuff.
Yeah, and I think you're hitting the nail on the head there, because what I'll say at Andy's Man Club, I think these people who are unfortunately feeling suicidal, it's because they've lost hope.
Yeah.
And they've lost that that self. They don't love the self. They've lost that self image. And Paul, you've been there. You talk openly about this. Is that true or not true? What I'm saying? Would you agree or disagree?
Going from personal experience, I just didn't see a way out, and it was. I thought.
So you were suicidal at one
Yes.
point?
Yeah. Because just to get you up to speed, we set up Andy's Man Club in Hull, and Paul was my old rugby coach from being 9, 10, 11, 12, something like that, all the way through. And he'd suffered with mental health for a long time. So we set up Andy's Man Club, and I originally set it up to help him. And then he actually now leads Andy's Man Club.
Sorry, Paul, please carry on.
Yeah, so it was a point where I didn't see a way out. No matter what I did, the result was still the same.
Yeah.
So it got to a point where I just thought I was feeling suicidal and having suicidal thoughts on a daily basis, day in, day out. And it got to a point where I was tired of it. I didn't want to think them thoughts anymore. So I thought the best way to get rid of those thoughts is to end my life. And it come to a point where I was going to do that. And luckily my brother was stood next to me when I was going to do it. And in a split second, I decided I couldn't leave him with the images of me taking my life. And then that's when I knew I needed help, and I sought out help, and I'm sat here today.
I mean, I've been at the point of self-loathing and hating myself, because I got up to 20 stone in weight about 12 years ago.
Incredible journey, that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And so I know all about that, but I've never been at that point. I mean, that's, yeah.
And I think it is back to that point, though, the way the questions are designed, and we see it all the time, don't we? People do lose hope, and I think in this connected world we're in, it is easy to learn all this information, suck it all in, and we get barraged by so much information, we just freeze and don't do anything with it.
Absolutely. But the best thing is, as you say, is talking about it. Yeah. And what happened with you, Paul, what was great is that you said your brother was there. Now, if your brother wasn't there,
might have been
a different story.
Might have been. I don't know. It might.
No, we don't know exactly.
Might have been a different story. It might not. But what I do now, I try and use my experience to help other people.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to jump in, and start digging into what makes a John tick. We got some quick. We can get shovels. That's easy, but we're in all that week, so okay. not a problem. So Dino, do you want to jump in and go first?
Jump in, I've just been.
Yeah, because you just talk and talk and talk. Let us get a word in.
Do you know what? It's been nice just sat listening to you. I could just listen to you all day, to be honest. I think we need you in here to do some trading. But yeah, I'll jump straight in with question 1. So this one is, what 1 to 3 books have greatly changed or influenced your life?
Okay, so the one book that started everything for me was Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. So Psycho-Cybernetics goes back to 1960, but I read the book about 2003, 2002, something like that. So for me, it was the very first help book. And the reason why it was so brilliant, so this is before neuroscience, it's before neuro-linguistic programming, before everything else. And what was brilliant about it is that it talks about visualization. And it also talked about the power of the mind. And that's when I realized that for us, it's what goes on between our ears that's important.
Yeah. And I think, well, interesting with that, because that's the first time we've had anyone mention that book on here.
Really?
I've read that book. I found it incredible. But I want you to sort of dig in a bit more, because I was reading this weekend The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy.
Yep.
And I think that was after Maxwell Maltz.
Yeah. I think it was in the 60s or something like that.
64, that one.
I'm halfway through that book.
Yeah, so I've just got onto that one. And what blows my mind is, because I'm huge into all different speaking, all this type of stuff, and what must it have been like, though, that the concepts in Psycho-Cybernetics and I'm taking on in sport and everything like that, you know, visualising the win, and we see it all the time, don't they? And they say, Dean, because you're big into sport, like Dean on the football pitch is horrendous, aren't you, Dean?
What? And when you say horrendous, do you mean that give him? He's like, is it? You give you a ball and you can't kick.
No,
it?
he can kick.
Oh,
He's just got this. He's got this mindset of winning, John.
Oh, right. Okay.
Describe, Dean, what goes through your head.
I mean, as soon as I step on the pitch, it's all about winning, and I don't focus on anything else apart from that.
Now then, that is phenomenal, because as soon as I step up, before I go on stage, and we were talking about this before on off air, Paul, before I go on stage, now I'm not exactly a nervous wreck, but I am focused. I'm like, I've done my homework, I know what I'm doing, I've got 30 odd years of experience, but before I go on stage, it's like I'm focused, and I'm not too sure how it's going to go or whatever. But
Do you still get like?
I get nervous, yeah. But there's an expression. We get butterflies, right? The expression is the butterflies are flying in formation.
Yeah.
They're not all over the place. Right? So like you, so once I get on a stage, once I say my first sentence, because my first sentence is always the same sentence, I start with the same gag, and that's my comfort blanket. But once I get that out of the way, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm in charge.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the same
It's
with you.
similar to me what I tend to do on a football pitch, slightly different, but I like to observe for 5 minutes and see, right, what can I do, what's going to be the most damaging or impacting on this game to get us a result.
Damaging. That's what I mean. See language. That's all.
So I need to focus on, if there's just that one particular person I need to focus on to stop him. Or
Well, we're thinking the same, because I'm not exactly thinking of damaging or winning. I'm thinking, you're thinking about winning the game.
End goal is we win,
We win the game, right? So my end goal, my win, is that the audience gets the tools that they need to make at least one change in their lives for the better. Because the night before I speak, I'm not a religious person, but in my head as I'm falling asleep, I will say to myself, right, tomorrow, let it be the best presentation I have ever done, ever.
Yeah.
And whatever that audience needs to hear for their highest good, let me be the person that delivers that message.
That's good.
Yeah, brilliant.
So, I mean, whether that happens or not is another thing, but that is the intent. But we're similar in the sense, for you, the end goal is winning the game.
Yeah.
For me, the game is that
person
that
taking
person
something
wins.
away.
Yeah.
But I think it's so powerful that, you know, that them two stories that you guys are just talking about there, back into that book you mentioned there, it is about using our mind with that intent, because, you know, a lot of people, I talk about this about being intentional rather than being accidental in life and setting up. And I'm not religious, but I believe there's I don't understand the electricity that's in a light. I know that electricity goes from the switch to the light bulb.
Does it?
It does, doesn't it? Right? We see it, right?
Because I'm from Bradford. Well, we're new to all that kind of stuff and carpets and things. It's amazing.
Right. I used to live on Great Orton Road back in the
Did
day.
you?
My parents used to run the
Right, switch this off, let's talk.
Manville Arms. Do you remember the Manville
The
Arms?
Manville Arms.
Remember, it was a treat around there. I'd say that. But
I'll tell you what, I'll keep us in check. Keep us on track. Come
No,
on,
no,
about this book.
no, but the point I'm making is though about being intentional in our life.
Yeah.
Right, and we're not like we talk about that situation you was in, Paul. Right, with Andy's Man Club. You go there on a Monday night now. Why?
I got to use it first and foremost for myself, but we do it for the next man.
And being intentional. You ask them questions. You've answered them questions. How many times you answer them questions on a Monday night?
Hundreds.
Right, me the same. It's back to that point though. It's about having that discipline, that intention to keep going. So what else would you say you took from psychocybernetics? Anything else?
From psychocyber, right. So the main message that I needed to hear from that book was that it's all about what goes on in our heads. That was the main thing and then after that, all the other books that I wrote, all the other books that I wrote, all the books that I've written are amazing. But apart from those books, all the books that I read, the titles kind of all blended one into another. But it was basically me just absorbing what was happening and the way we think. But then I realized something, and this is something that you just said just now, Paul. Why do you go to that event? You go for you first.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, and that's another thing that I learned, that we have to do this for ourselves first. This is not a selfish thought. Because if we can't help ourselves, who can we help? We've got to help ourselves first before we can help anybody else. Because if we're falling apart, we're useless.
But that's a hard concept for a lot of people to get into. Right?
Yeah, because it's like the difference between loving yourself and being in love with yourself.
Yeah.
Because I'm all for self-love, but that doesn't mean that I'm the greatest person on the planet and I'm the God's gift to whatever. All it means is that I treat myself like my own best friend.
Yeah.
I'm not in love with myself that I think I'm the sexiest guy. I just treat myself as my best friend, and it's the difference. So when you go to an event and you're doing it for you, we've got to do it. It's just changing that little. It's a little shift that we've got to have, and I don't know how we make people understand that. But there's an old analogy. And I hate using it, but I'm going to use it anyway. And it's the airline thing, where when the mask comes down,
it's a great analogy.
what do they say? They say, put the mask on yourself first. Even if you're with a child, put the mask on yourself first before putting it on the child. Right, because if you put it on the child, what use are you? If you don't, you've got to do it on you first.
Yeah.
But as humans, I think it's one of our biggest
But you're
conditions.
right. We think we're being selfish, and we're not being selfish. That's the thing. And I think one way of getting over that way of thinking is thinking, right, the more I help myself, the more I can help others.
Yeah.
And it's reminding ourselves of that fact, because there's been times when I've thought, oh, I'm being selfish. And then thought, well, hang on a minute. Like, so for instance, like money. Right, I'm not interested in being a millionaire, but I am interested in paying all my bills. I'm interested in not being in debt. I'm interested in that I'll be able to go on a holiday or whatever. But I also know that the more money that I have, the more I'll be able to help others. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to be donating to every single charity left, right, and centre. It just means that I can look after myself, and I'll be able to look after others as well.
Yeah, love it. No, love that. Any other books that have greatly influenced you?
No, I've just put that one book down because that was the main one that got me on the path. It got me on the path to righteousness.
But look, it's
Hallelujah.
in music terms, that's a banger. That's a banger of a book.
Yeah, it's a banger of a book. I think there's 50 years between Dean and I, so I'm going to go into Dean's language. Dean, it's a banger of a book, right? I don't know what I'm talking about here. I've got my fingers right. Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Is that with your fingers? I'm doing that.
You
Okay.
do. I'm going to do your next one, John.
Have you got a baseball cap I can borrow? Put it on my back.
I've got one now.
Right, I can relate to Dean then.
How you going? So, what is your feel-good song or music that gets you focused or makes you happy?
Now then, this is, I had to think about this, and there's loads of songs there's Walking on Sunshine, there's Queen's Don't Stop Me Now, and the one song that I really keep going back to and again, it's not like a feel-good song, but once again, it gets me grounded. Sunscreen by Baz Luhrmann.
Yeah, God, yeah. I do remember that one.
This is the class of '99.
Yeah, it was like a 90s tune.
It was.
Wear
1999.
Sunscreen, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was more than that, right? So first of all, you don't know what I'm talking. I know you don't know what I'm talking about. Look up Sunscreen by Baz B-A-Z Luhrmann. Luhrmann, and it starts off and it goes to the class of '99, where it's just like one of those old. It's a
bit like what's that song? 19.
19. But I mean, the things that it says. All right. So first of all, it starts. So it goes, where's sunscreen? It says now sunscreen has been proven to have long-term benefits by scientists, but the rest of what I'm about to say has no more foundation than my life experience and the things that it comes out with. So for instance, it says in life, when we talk about success, sometimes you're ahead, sometimes you're behind. But ultimately, it's a race, and the race is just against yourself. You don't need to compare yourself with anybody else. It comes out with all these things. Another thing it says is that whatever you do in life, celebrate it. But also, don't celebrate it too much, but don't berate yourself either. Because everything you do, all the decisions you made, it's a half chance. And so is everybody else. Because if you think about it, there are so many people out there who are suffering. And yet, the decisions they have made good decisions. When I say good decisions, with the resources that they had, with the thinking that they had, for instance, like stocks and shares, they'll think, right, we've looked at the market, I've done all of my homework, and I'm now investing in this particular stock. What happens? It crashes, and they lose the money. That's not because they're bad people. That's not because they don't know what they do, or that they're idiots. They've made a decision, and it was half a guess. And other people, there are people that have phenomenal successes. And once again, the reason why they're a phenomenal success, sometimes it's because, they know what they're doing, they're intelligent people, but sometimes it's also because it's half a guess.
Yeah, with that. Yeah. I love that. I'm going to listen to that on the way home tonight.
Go for the long 7-minute version.
Yeah.
Seriously, listen to it. You'll be amazed.
Find after this.
We'll find
I'll have to listen to it. We'll have to write that down.
I'm interested in this one, Paul.
Right.
Oh, right. Oh, we're going. Oh, yeah, we're going. Okay.
Yeah. Right then, John, what purchase of £50 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months?
Boys and girls,
Go on.
when we start in life, when we land on this rock, we need this one item. An electric blanket.
I've just come back from the caravan. We've got one there.
No, I'm telling you, you think I'm joking.
I'm on it.
We need an electric blanket. Now then, this is going back to you, Paul, and having the kind of thoughts that we have. When we say not wanting to get out of bed, one of the just of a winter's evening, when you just switch it on for like 10 minutes. I know, look, my mouth's slavering and everything, I know, because I'm just so excited over an electric blanket. The number of times, one of the things that we need in life is to feel grateful. And there's been times when it's been a bit tough, and I've been in bed and I think, I need something to be grateful for. And you know what? I am grateful. And I'm not being funny now. I know it sounds like a joke, but I'm genuinely grateful for the electric blanket, because I'm thinking, you know what? I've got some warmth. There's people out there that don't even have any warmth. I've got a roof over my head. I've got food in my belly. And I'm reminding myself, because when we are having those tough times, we need to remind ourselves that it isn't all junk and rubbish that's going on. We need those little luxuries that reminds us of, the world is not all falling apart. So I'm sorry, guys.
No, love
electric
it.
blanket's the way.
I love it. I think that's one of the best answers we've had.
It was a great answer. And they're underrated. We was at the caravan, it was freezing, electric blanket. When I got into that on last night, it was incredible.
And
It was amazing.
You're snug up and like a bug in a rug. It's I know.
You wouldn't have, honestly, last night when I got into the bed, it was cold outside, cold.
I know, I was there.
And
Oh, sorry, did I step out? Oh no, I'm sorry about that.
but you don't get electric blankets in the Ritz, do you?
No, you don't get that. No,
You don't.
because that's it's warm in there
Yeah,
anyway.
they don't need it.
You don't need
You
it.
don't
Leon,
need it
yeah.
in the Brits. Yeah, they're now suffering from gas electricity prices. I mean, mind you, electric blanket, I think before, 6 months ago, I think it cost a penny overnight, but now it costs about £87.60 to run.
I might invest in one of those. It's going to be a lot cheaper than heating the house.
Well, it is. It's true, it is.
Yeah, just go to bed.
Yeah, it's good to bed.
Go to bed.
Just hibernate for 6 months.
I like that. Right, I'll jump straight into the next one then.
All right, yeah, go on.
So next question.
We've got him on the roll now, haven't we? Let's keep going.
Yeah,
Just keep going.
Come on,
We've got him on the rack.
rolling out.
We've got him on the rack now, haven't we?
So do you have a lesson from a failure of yours?
A lesson from a failure of mine. Okay, fine. So the basic life. Well, it's not the life story, right? This is not a long story. I promise you, it's not a long story. So
As long as you want.
1989. So my background as a magician. And well, thanks for looking impressed at that, everybody. I do get. That's,
We already knew though, didn't
I
we?
know, that's
We already
you
knew.
know what? That's the reaction I get at parties. Well, I'm a magician. Yeah. Okay. So we've just got to go put some air in a cupboard now. If you just excuse us.
How did you get into magic?
I didn't get. Right. I was at college, and I thought it was a way of meeting girls.
I get it.
And boys and girls, I can tell you, it didn't work. I have no idea what was going on in my head at the time, but I found something that I really enjoyed, and I really by the way, I'm not that sad that I don't like girls or anything like that. I mean, I've got my priorities right. But anyway, so what was it? So what was the lesson? So way back in 1989, I was an optician. And I was made redundant after 7 years. I was made redundant for the third time after 7 years of being an optician. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking you're an optician and you didn't see it coming. I know exactly what you're thinking there. And no, I didn't see it coming at all. So, and I decided that I was going to follow my passion. And my passion, that weekend I decided I was going to become a professional magician. So this is way back in 1989, and I started off by performing close-up magic in local restaurants. So you've been to a restaurant or a dinner where they go from table to table? Yeah, okay. Anyway, and in 12 years, I built up my career to such a degree that I was working, and I was for nearly half of the blue chip companies in the UK. So I'm going up and down the country. I'm entertaining their top clients. I'm entertaining their executive boards. I'm being flown around Europe. I'm on their exhibition stands. I'm using my magic to promote their products and services. I'm at their conferences. And once again, I'm using my magic. This is why I use magic in my presentations, because I was promoting, conveying their messages in those days. And I was at conferences using the magic to get their corporate messages across. And I was no longer in front of audiences of about half a dozen people. I was now on big stages where I was in front of an audience of 600, 700, 800 people in one go. And I ended up having a crisis in confidence. Right? So I did 3 gigs that for me weren't as good. For me, in my head, I thought they were not as good as they were. So, for instance, let's say that I was doing gigs and I was getting, let's say that we rate them out of 10, where 10 is standing ovations, 0 is absolute rubbish. So I'm getting, in my head, I'm rating them, I'm getting 9 and 10 out of 10. And then I do a gig which I'd rate as an 8 out of 10. Well, oh, that's a rubbish gig, is that? Because I only got an 8 there. So, and the client's going, that was fantastic, that was great. I'm going, oh no, it should have been better, should that? So once again, what's going on between our ears? Anyway, so my business went downhill. So the lesson that I learned from that was, and it wasn't an immediate lesson, it came after a little while, is that I was running a business all on my own. It was just me. And I realized I needed to have a team of people around me, a support group of some sort. And it wasn't until about 2010 when I read the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
A second banger there, Dean.
Yeah, it's a banger, Dean.
This is the one.
We're talking Dean, right?
This is on my list from you.
Exactly, yeah. So, and the chapter in that chapter 10 is entitled The Power of the Mastermind, which sounds, so I formed a mastermind group. Sounds like we're taking over the world, doesn't it, mate? Mastermind group. And a mastermind group is basically where you surround yourself with, say, 4 or 5 people, and you meet up periodically. In my case, there are 5 of us, and we meet up every 6 to 8 weeks. And we bring to the table issues, challenges, opportunities that we might have that we need to discuss. And the reason why so when I was in business all on my own, it was just me. I couldn't put the challenges and issues and opportunities into perspective, which is where you come in, Paul, with your brother. You couldn't, because you had no perspective. Because the way our brains work, I now know, I didn't know then, is that the way our minds work is that we're trying to protect ourselves. We focus on the negative. Why do we focus on the negative? Because your brain is going, I am looking for any threats, because it's trying to protect you. But what's happening is it's looking at everything as a threat. And there are quite often threats out there that are not threats at all. They're there to help you, but we consider them to be threats. That's why a lot of people focus on the negative more. And so when I surrounded myself with this group of people, I now had a chance to turn around and go, right, okay, just give me a reality check here. So I've got this, have I missed anything here? And these people, and it's important who you choose, because you need to get people who will challenge you in a supportive way. So they're not challenging you going, well, that's a little rubbish, you shouldn't be doing that. It's like, okay, so why are you doing this? All right, fair. So this is what you want to do, so what you're going to get. So they're asking you the kind of questions where they are putting sort of obstacles in your way, but they're not putting their obstacles in your way to stop you. They're just making sure that you've thought through.
Yeah, challenging your thinking on it.
They're challenging your thinking on it. And if you can't do that with a group of people, then at least find one other person. Because I've got a mastermind group, but I also have a couple of buddies. I call them buddies. So every month we'll phone up, and just or Zoom now. I mean, it used to be phone, Zoom now. We used to be on the old tin cans and the thread in there. In those, it was a long time.
Send a pigeon.
Yeah, we used to send pigeons in those days. So we're on Zoom, and for a couple of hours we just discuss. Okay, so how's it going? Or are there any challenges? What's happening? And it's just having that support network.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's why I think Andy's Man Club is so successful, because it's technically what we're doing. It's a support network. It's a mastermind.
It's a what network?
It's a support network.
Oh, I thought you said something else.
Yeah, but it's the power of getting outside your own.
Yeah, you need people to talk to.
Yeah,
because we said this earlier on. If we talk, it's amazing how many times has somebody said to you, they've been talking to you, you've said nothing, and they've gone, you know what, you're a genius. I'm so glad I spoke to you. And you thought, well, I haven't said anything. It's because they've worked out in their own heads the solution that they're looking for.
But it's like, when you do that trick, and it's about getting people, so all the crowd can see it, but the person can't see it.
Yeah.
It's exactly that same thing. Sometimes you've got to get out of your own way, haven't you? But you just don't know how to do it, do you?
I think we've had that in the past. You've helped me with that massively. Sometimes where maybe developing or delivering a project, for example, and I'll hit a brick wall, and I'll come into Leon and talk to him about where I'm at with it. And 9 times out of 10, you don't even fix the problem for me. You just ask the right leading questions, and sometimes just open my mind up, and I sort of solve the problem myself just by that conversation with somebody.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think it's just getting that mindset. You think, right, I've hit a brick wall, and Leon will come in and be like, well, have you tried that? And I'm actually, I could do this, I could do that. And then I'll come up with a list of 10 ideas, which will get me past
And it's not just
barrier.
that, and it's not just that. What will happen is some of those ideas that you have won't be the solution, but they'll be the stepping stone
Yeah.
to the solution.
Yeah.
Because you'll go in and go, okay, well, I'm not too sure about this. And then you'll go away and you think, oh yeah, that reminds me.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Just thinking.
Yeah, and I think John, Dean's like, there's me and Scott, and there's Dean's like, and he runs a show when, me and Scott just help him to run the show. And I think what's been real cool over the last couple of years helping Dean is he'll come in, we giggle about this now, he'll come in and go, I've got this problem, and I'll just sit there and just go, well, why, what, how, what if? And then all the time,
What if? I love that question, what if?
Yeah, great question. And he'll normally come in with that, I've got to go do this, and I can't do this, and he can't do his normal roles. Then I'll just go, but what if you want him today? What if? What we're going to do? And then he goes, right, I've fixed it now. You've done it again to me. I've fixed it again anyway.
Yeah, you're a genius.
I ain't done anything.
How come you know all this stuff?
I don't know
How
nothing.
do you know all this stuff?
No, nothing. And I think don't we? I think I can't remember how I read this, but we've got to question the world like a child would. How, what, why? And my kids do it all the time, and sometimes it drives my wife crazy, but I always insist that they want to know something. I used to watch, this was probably back in the 90s, Tomorrow's World. Remember Tomorrow's World?
Tomorrow's World, yeah.
You have a clue what we're talking about, Dean.
I've heard it.
We've mentioned it a few times.
Yeah, Tomorrow's World.
And that was, I think we sometimes forget to look through life through them lenses. Would you agree or disagree?
John will remember the other programme called How.
Oh,
Remember that one?
Oh.
How, yeah?
Oh.
Yeah? Yeah?
Oh.
Was that after
Nobody
the
knows.
Was that
Now
after
that
the
we've
watershed?
alienated our audience.
Was that after the watershed?
It was before the watershed.
right,
It was,
just
in fact,
all
it was
that
before the
panting.
watershed. Yeah.
It was tea time.
It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep.
Oh, it was brilliant.
No, but I think it is that we don't question the world like a child do anymore. We take the world sometimes a little bit too serious, don't we?
Yeah.
We also stop thinking too soon. So we think we've got a solution, or we come to a solution, and then we don't explore it any further because we've got the solution. Whereas what kids are really good at, they'll just go, right, okay, that's one way of doing it, and then they'll just go off and and think about other things and explore other things. So
And use a creative mind differently, isn't it? I'm going to do you the next one, John. What is your favourite quote or saying that if you could share it with everyone in the world, what is it and why, please?
now then, this quote.
There's a theme here, isn't there?
There's a theme here. Right, the thing about this quote is this. It is attributed to a very famous person, and this person never said it. I've done my homework, and I don't know who said it. So if you watch the film The Darkest Hour, about Winston Churchill.
Oh, right, yeah.
Is that
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so with Gary Oldman, he plays Winston. And at the end, it says this quote, and it's attributed to Winston Churchill. And it's all over the internet that it's attributed to Winston Churchill. And I looked into it, and I've searched, and I thought, all right, it's attributed to Winston Churchill. And when I looked into it, I found something from one of Winnie, because Winnie and I, go back a long way, we're busy mates. One of Winnie's biographers, or his biographer, and he said, he never said it. He never said it. And I don't know where it came from, but this is the quote. I've got to read it. Failure is not fatal. Success is not final. It's the courage to continue that counts.
Love it.
I do love it. I do love it.
Failure is not fatal. Success is not final. It's the courage to continue that counts. Now, it sounds like the kind of thing that Winston Churchill would say.
It does.
Now,
Especially in them times as well.
Exactly right. Now, whether they actually say it, I don't know. But all I know is that I got that quote from the end of the film, and for me, it resonated with me. And it's because, and at the end of the day, it's just saying that, okay, whether we succeed or we fail, okay, it's just life. That's what happens. It's life does not have an agenda. Life doesn't go, hey, Dean, you've made this decision, I'm going to reward you. Or, hey, Dean, you've done this, I'm going to punish you. Life is not punishing us or rewarding us. It just happens. And there's the good things that happen, and there are not so good. Right, let's rephrase this. There are things happen that we like, and things happen that we don't like.
That's a better way of looking at it. I like that way. I do
That's a
actually
better way of looking at
it.
it. Right, okay. So there's things happen that we like, and things happen that we don't like. But the thing is, keep going.
Yeah, and I think It is hard at times, and I think more so though, John. What I am going to challenge is, I was having this conversation with my daughter at the weekend. She's on TikTok, but only allowed 2 hours a week on it, and she wants to be on it more.
How old is she?
She's 11, but was at the caravan and she's played out all weekend. And at first though, it's always the same thing. The first sort of day we're there, she wants to get on these devices, and I'm like, you've got a full world out there. I want you to go explore it. That device and then people and all them things are not going anywhere. But I think these tools at the moment, I think they've got a lot to answer for.
Tools?
In terms of your social media tools.
Oh, yeah.
Because people see other people online and they don't appear to have problems. It looks like success is easy. Like, you saw it today. You turned up for the podcast today, and I'm trying to get set up. I wanted my game face wasn't there, was it?
No.
You helped me out, didn't you? Go chill out, go sort it out.
Yeah, only because I understand.
Yeah.
And the reason why I understand is that, as I said earlier on, when I'm presenting, when I'm speaking, I'm dealing with these keynotes or whatever, when I arrive, I'm focused. And I've said this to Paul, I'm usually not the best of company. I'm not rude. You were not rude. Yep. You weren't as friendly as you normally are. Yep. And I'm exactly the same. I'm never rude. I'm polite. You were polite. I'm just not as friendly because I'm focused on it. I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and I've got to sort this out.
Plug these things in. I can't remember that plug was. That plug was.
Exactly, because you want to get it right.
Yeah. But I think the challenge is, though, people perceive, though, when they watch this, it'll all be polished, it'll all go out, there'll be you laughing, smiling, look at it'll all look good.
And then afterwards we'll at each other's throats.
Yeah, exactly. But I think people they only see one side on this online world, and I think it has a huge impact. Because you're nodding, what you were thinking, Dean?
No, I agree with exactly what you're saying. I mean, last week we took all devices off my daughter, and it was hard for me. We had a disagreement, but we kept her off social media just for whatever she did. But just the comms, what I had with her from not interacting on these things and seeing this perfect life, which technically doesn't exist on there, we had a better relationship for her not doing that. We talked more probably in an hour than we had in 2 days, just because she went on these devices. And I think that, it's a challenge, and I think we've all got it with young kids growing up nowadays, haven't we?
Yeah. The challenge we've got is that we're comparing everybody else's edited lives, with our unedited lives. Because one thing that I've noticed, I don't care who you are, I don't care how much money you've got, I don't care what you've achieved in your life, each and every single one of us, we all have doubt, self-doubt from time to time. We all have. I mean, I've not read loads of biographies, but you know what? I haven't seen a biography yet where from beginning to end, everything has gone smoothly in that person's life. Yeah. They've had some sort of challenge, either it's been financial or relationship or health or I don't know, whatever it is. They've all had challenges. And that's one of the reasons why people like these biographies, because we like to hear stories. How did they get out of it? Yeah. What did they do?
I'm not alone. It's not just me.
Yeah. And there isn't each film, every film you look at, it's all about conflict. Either conflict with yourself, conflict with nature, conflict with another person or an organization, wherever it might be. There is always and this is life. This is what I was saying earlier on. Life isn't punishing you and it's not rewarding you. It's just that these junk happens.
Yeah.
And there's good, but the thing is, good things happen as well. And that's what we need to remember.
Yeah.
It's not all bad.
No.
There's good things happening. But going back to you about like I said, it's the reminding ourselves that we are going through this in our heads, this junk. We're having challenges, but there's good stuff out there as well. Yeah. But it's other people, as you say, online. When you look at other people's lives and everything. I do this myself. I look at my own post and I think, should I put on there today that I'm having a really rubbish day? Well, no, not really. Because I don't want anybody's sympathy. I don't want people going, oh, we feel so sorry for you or whatever. I don't know. It seems weird.
It's that we're all characters in a play, aren't we? You know, all the world's a stage, you know. And I think, I don't know what quote this is, but it's the one, I am the person who you think I should be. It's that sort of, we all try and be, you're conditioned because you want to be liked by other people to act a certain way. And actually, life ain't like that, is it? It's not like that. And I think that's the hard thing with social media at the moment, I would say. And I can see you nodding as well. Yeah.
No, it's right. People only put the best bits on it, don't they? But I think there's another way as well. We use it as a tool, and it's good for promoting your business. It's good for getting it out there. But as long as you don't let social media use you as a tool, that's when the problem arises, doesn't it?
It's when you can't, then it's when you can't keep your nose away from the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, we get addicted to it.
Yeah,
There's a
we do.
guy, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know if he's going to listen in or whatever, but I go for a walk most days. And just to clear my head, a bit of exercise, and it's usually about 1:30 or whatever it might be. And I see this guy doing the same circuit, the opposite direction to where I go. And he's got his phone in his hand. And I'm thinking, for goodness sakes, will you take it wherever I see him on this? He's always got his phone in his hand and he's looking at the phone. I mean, he's watching what he's doing back, but he's more focused on the phone. I said, well, if you're having a break, and to me, I don't know exactly what's going on, but it looks like he thinks, I've got to do some exercise, but he must have a very important job. That's the other thing I can think.
But I think this is links nice into this sort of next question, Paul.
Yep, here we go. Right then, John, in the last 5 years, what new habit or belief has had the most profound effect on your life?
Well, I can't tell that on there in front of these people, but what I'm going to do, that's legal. And okay, so the habit is celebrating achievements. Now then, because the thing that I realised a few years ago, there's a theme forming here now. What happens is every day, we'll have let's say we go to work or life. We'll have a problem, an issue, a challenge of some sort. So what do? We focus on it. We sort it out. Do we say, well done there? No, we don't.
No, we don't.
Life throws another problem, issue, and challenge at us. What do? We focus on it. We sort that out. Do we give ourselves a pat on the back? No, we don't. Then there's another problem, issue, and challenge. What do? We focus on it. We sort it out. And do we say, great job there? No, we don't. We go on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next. Well, hang on a minute. Surely those problems, issues, and challenges, I mean, I could be wrong here, but surely they're classed as achievements, successful achievements. I mean, sure, because we've done something right there, because we've sorted it out. Now, if we keep focusing on all the problems, issues, and challenges, if we're not careful, and if we don't remind ourselves of the successes, the successful achievements, if we're not careful, that can erode. It can erode our resilience. It can lower morale. And in some extreme cases, I mean, it can even lead to depression. Because, perfect example, Paul, earlier on, you said, there's nothing going, you were at that point where it's all falling apart. Nothing's going right in my life. And you couldn't see anything else. Because you got to a point where you couldn't see the successes, the achievements that you'd achieved at that point.
Yeah.
If you'd have put things into perspective, okay, you might still have got to that point. I don't know. We'll never know the answer to that question. But I would suspect either you wouldn't have got to that point or it would have taken a lot longer to get to that point.
But we talk a lot, though, don't we?
Yeah.
In terms of a habit that we've formed from the Man Club that comes up a lot, and I think it's linking into what you're saying. Being grateful, having gratitude, and having an attitude of gratitude in the morning, and we do that at the Man Club as well, and I think that links into what John's saying. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, we do. We start with 3 things we're grateful for in the morning.
Yeah.
So that can be our job, our house, our family,
Or heated blankets.
or heated blankets.
Yeah.
Anything.
Don't forget your electric blanket.
Yeah, and it can be anything. But I also, what I do, and I did it this morning for gratitude, right? And I've mentioned it a couple of times to the guys. I drive here to this office via the old companies that I've worked for, because it's 5 minutes longer, right?
Yeah.
But as I'm driving by them places that I used to work, where the conditions weren't as nice as this office, and what I'm doing now, the gratitude I get just by driving. Don't get me wrong, I had great times there, but I think I've come on, and my life
evolved.
I've evolved, and just driving, having a detour past my old companies, it just gives me gratitude every morning, and I do that. And sometimes, why do you take that way? Because I get here and I feel, and I look out that window and see the Humber and the sun rising, and I just think I'm in a great place today, and that just kicks me off.
I do something similar. If I'm on the motorway, it's usually the motorway, but if I'm driving along and I'll see a lorry for an organisation that I've worked for, I salute them. I'll say that. Well, when I say salute them, I don't stop the car and do a full salute or anything. But I'll sort of nod my head and I'll say thank you.
Keeping safe. His other hand on the wheel.
Exactly. But I'll say thank you. And why? And I'll say thank you because they've hired me and they've helped pay my mortgage. They've helped put food on my table. Yeah. Yes, I've given them something in exchange by delivering a presentation, but I say thank you very much.
Love that. No, I absolutely love that one. Where are we going next, Dean?
Dean?
Straight into man. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself at 18 and what advice should you have ignored?
Oh, right. Okay. So I don't know about what advice I should have ignored, but what advice I should have given is don't be interesting. Be interested. So, because people are interested in themselves. And when you're interesting, the focus is on you, you don't learn anything. But when you're interested, it's amazing what you pick up from people and what you can learn. And that will help you your own evolution and your own way of thinking. Just be open-minded.
Love that.
Yeah. Love that.
That's why we love the podcast, don't we? Because we just sometimes we just sit and we learn so much, don't we?
Of different people.
What a pleasure is it?
I knew John's was going to be a cracker today, and it hasn't disappointed at all.
So let's discuss the fee. What's no fee? Wait a minute. What?
We've got you here. You
got me a pig.
You said because we've changed the name of the podcast, you're only coming on if we've got the original pig wrestling there.
Yeah,
we've got it.
Thank you very much. All right,
it makes a noise as well.
Does it?
There you go.
All right,
there you go. We got it there. I'm going to go next then. We all at times feel burnt out, unfocused, unenergised, overwhelmed. What is it that you do? And if helpful, what sort of questions do you ask yourself?
Right, okay. So I reckon this is probably a standard answer where you will get most of your guests saying more or less the same thing.
We'll find out.
I'm guessing. Cause
I don't think so with you, John, at all.
No, well, I'm afraid on this occasion. So for me, if I feel overwhelmed or I'm feeling stressed, for me, the go-to technique is meditation or a deep breathing exercise. But I tend to find that if I'm really overwhelmed and I'm really busy, I'll double the meditation. So of a morning, I normally do 20 to 40 minutes. So it ends up being about maybe 30 minutes or 35 minutes, something like that, where I'll just pause. So, and the meditation that I have is I don't listen to anything. I just do my best to make my mind go blank. And as I say, if I'm feeling very overwhelmed, I'll even do a half-hour meditation in the evening as well. But that'll also turn into a visualization. So the visualization, I start off with gratitude. Because what happens when we feel gratitude is that we reduce the cortisol, which is the drug that we have within our bodies, or that increases our stress. But we increase our dopamine and our endorphins, which are basically our happy drugs. So I'll find things to be grateful for. So now I'm feeling a little pumped up, and then I can do maybe a visualization. I'll find there might be people out there that I want to send love to. And they want to send, I'm not a healer or a lover, but I know that the people that are having challenges, so I'll say, right, please help them in some way. I don't know if there's a God or the universe, or if it's my higher self, or if it's my subconscious mind. I don't know what it is, but I believe that there is something that we interact with, generally. Yeah. And then I just go quiet. And if I've got a question that I want to ask myself, I'll ask the question. And maybe the answer will come to me, maybe it won't. But what tends to happen is that the answer usually comes maybe an hour after I've had the meditation. But it's getting grounded. That's the thing. It's about getting grounded for me.
But what would you say, John? Because we haven't had that question answered that way particular. We've had people mention about meditation. I'm a huge fan of it. But what would you say in terms of some people, like what you just said there to a lot of our listeners, and I remember someone else speaking like you did about meditation. What you basically said was, if life's getting even more harder for you, you take even more time to meditate, right? Yeah. And I always remember thinking that was so counterproductive. Like I've got this task list that's really massive. I'm not thanking myself for doing it, and I'm going to go sit in silence for even longer. What would you say to that person?
Okay. So, excuse me. So what I found is that when I'm feeling overwhelmed, what happens? I'm not focusing. I can't think straight. But when I meditate and I get grounded, I then get into a place where it's easier, not necessarily easy, but it's a lot easier to focus and think straight. Therefore, even though I'm taking more time out, time that I could be spending on doing something, because I'm becoming more focused and becoming more grounded, it becomes easy. I end up being more productive. It's almost like being counterproductive. Am I making sense?
No, you are. No, you are. You're making perfect sense. But it's such a hard thing to shift your mind if you're not.
It
used to
is,
it.
and I know, and I can empathise absolutely, because it's like, hang on a minute, I'm spending twice the time doing nothing when I could be getting on with something. And it isn't. What you're doing is you're getting grounded. And I don't know how I do it, but it's very rare. I can't think of a time when I've worked later than 9 o'clock of an evening or something like that. Some people work until the early hours of the morning. I've never done that, because I know that I need to get to bed. I need to get ideally to sleep. I'm like, if I'm doing it after dinner or something, speaking after dinner, then that's different. I'll be in bed about 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock or whatever, because I'm working. But if I'm at home, I'll do my best to get into bed for 9 o'clock, do a bit of reading, do my best to relax, and put my head down, get ready to sleep for about 10 o'clock-ish, around about 10 o'clock. So within 15 minutes either way, I'm asleep. But I'm an early riser, so I'm up at about 5:30.
You up at 5:30, right?
So that's like 7.5 hours sleep that I get, so it's still a decent amount of time of sleep.
But I think the best way I've started to describe this, because we've had these conversations, haven't we, when we're catching up, is it's a bit like we're in tech. So sometimes your computer, and it is a famous thing, this, what people don't realise, sometimes you have to turn a computer off and turn it back on again, don't you, Dean?
Yep.
Why do you have to do that from a technical reason? It's not because the engineer doesn't know how to fix it, but what happens to that computer's memory?
It's just like clearing the memory, starting
That's right,
again.
yeah. You're clearing the memory.
Same
You're getting
thing.
grounded. The computer's getting grounded, basically.
Yeah, it's overwhelmed. It's done too much. Just switch it off, clear the memory.
Let it go for its factory reset. Let it sort itself out. And I think that's the best. Like you mentioned there, is you have to sort of slow down to speed up, don't you?
Exactly right. Yeah. And also, in the middle of the day, that's why I go for my walk in the middle of the day, because I'm getting away from. Right, I work from home, as we've mentioned earlier on, and I need to get away from that workspace, and ideally outside. If it's sunny, that's even better. But even if it's dull outside, the only thing I don't like is if it's pouring down with rain. Then I'm kind of stuck a little bit. But I'll do my best to get out. And when I'm out there, going back to appreciation and gratitude, I will look at the flowers. I'll look at the sky. I'll look at the buildings where I am. And I think, aren't they beautiful? I'll look at the children laughing, and because I pass a school. And it's just so nice listening to kids laughing and enjoying themselves and the innocence and what have you. I'll see an elderly couple walking down the street holding hands. They're not talking because they've said everything they've said. They've been married for I don't know how long, but they're holding. Isn't that beautiful that they're just holding hands? And I will look at these things and appreciate that, okay, I'm alive, and I've got the opportunity to enjoy these things, and that's bringing gratitude into it. But it's also getting grounded, because it's taking my mind away from the challenges and issues, because I'm looking at all these things. But that's down to habit. Yep. It's down to forming that, because it's
repetition as well.
Yeah, because when I did it straight. I just switched off straight away. It didn't take me years to get to that level or anything like that. I don't know about taking me years, but it must have taken me months or something or whatever to get to that level. But it wasn't overnight. I had to work at it. And
I think that is with anything. I think that's what people.
Totally.
I think what people don't realise is we do have to work at it. And what you're saying, John, like you mentioned it in your talk when you ask people to put their hands up. It's very simple what you're asking people to do, but the challenge with us humans, it doesn't mean it's simplistic, does it? I just wish more people learn like what you're teaching and sharing, because
thank you.
We hear more of it, don't we, all the time, Paul?
Oh, that's why I was so thrilled when you said you had John coming on, because I remembered the time that he delivered the talk at the MKM Stadium now.
It was fun,
and it was fun, but it was relatable and interactive.
We remembered it all, and I think it is about just being consistent in that, isn't it?
So I'm going to hit him with the next one.
I'm intrigued by this one, Paul.
So, who in the world would you like to interview, past or present, and why?
You know, I thought really hard about this. I really did think hard. And I thought, who? And, okay, I'm going to go off the wall. I don't know where this answer is going to go. I really don't know where this answer is going to go. But you know what? My mum and dad.
I like it.
Yeah.
And the reason why, right, my mother died when she was 55 years old in 1988. And my dad died, actually, if my dad died 3 days later, he would have died on the 11th anniversary of my mum. So he died in 99. So that's quite an amazing coincidence. And the reason why is, as kids, every year my mum always used to tell me stories about the family. And this is your auntie, and this is your uncle, and this is what we got up to, and the blah, blah, blah. And I wish I'd have paid attention. I mean, I did pay attention, but I wish I could remember it.
Yeah.
I wish I'd have written it down. My father didn't tell me anything about his family. He was one of 9 kids, and he arrived in this country in 1955 after the Second World War. And so all the family was dispersed, and I don't know what happened during the war, but he had a really tough time. And I even said to him, "Dad, do you want me to see if I can find, the family?" And he said, "No, I don't. And knowing what I know now, I reckon I could have persuaded. I think he'd have thought, right, I'm old enough to know what's going on. I think it might have been, I don't know what was going on in there. But the thing is this, the reason why I want to interview them again is because I think when we know where we come from, we can then plan a route, a path to where we're going. So for instance, why am I like I am now? Well, we all start off with our challenges and issues because the sins of the father are passed on to the son. And by the sins, it's not the sins. When the Bible says the sins, I think what the Bible means is the thinking. Yeah. So the limiting beliefs.
Yeah, the paradigms. Yeah.
The paradigms. Yeah. All that, because I know that my parents, so my mum was Italian, my father was Polish. They arrived in this country, 1955 or whatever it is. And it was like, right, we've got to behave because we mustn't do this because we're going to rock the boat and we've got to do. And all that junk was passed on to me, not because they didn't love me. It was passed on to me because
all they knew.
They loved me and it's all they knew.
Yeah, all they knew, yeah.
Right? So I know for a fact, my parents, I could argue some of the decisions that they made about my life, about my education, whatever. One thing I cannot argue with is their intention. It always came from a place of love. It always came from a place of my best interest at heart. And it came with, they only used the resources that they had, the money that they had. And I know that there were times, I mean, there were, I don't know if we were poor people. I don't think we were poor. I know that they wanted to buy me toys and stuff, and they thought they were letting me down in some way, but they never let me down, because when it came to put a roof over my head, I always had food in my bag. I may not have had what I wanted. I always had what I needed.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Brilliant.
And I always had, and when it came to my education, I mean, the sacrifices that they made and the work that they did, they were factory work. They didn't earn millions or anything, but they always paid their way. Why? Because they had that work ethic that they didn't want to be a burden on the system. So it wasn't about, let's see what benefits we can get or whatever it might be.
Oh, and also back then as well, I was reading something about credit. We didn't have credit lines of credit.
Oh, yeah.
Credit, because I can't remember what I was watching, but when the credit card came out, and like, people don't have that access to cash like we have access to cash. It's so easy to get access to cash now, isn't it? So, I mean, I couldn't even imagine how hard it was back then if you didn't have cash.
Uh-huh.
So the reason I want to interview them is that I want to remember more about the family. I mean, I've got vague memories, but no, they're not clear memories. But also learn, okay, what could I have learned from them? Because even though, in my view, their thinking could have been better, there was still a lot of thinking that they did. There were a lot of values that they gave me that stood me in good stead in life, that I'm proud of. So
that's good.
Great answer. Great answer, that one. Great answer.
Brilliant.
Left us all speechless, hasn't he?
Yeah.
That was a good
Yeah,
one.
good
That one.
one,
Go
good
on,
one.
Dean.
Go on, Dean.
Yeah, last one, jump in. Is there anything that we should have asked you?
yes, there is. And the question is that, is there anything you should have asked me? But now you've asked it. There's no need to ask it. Right, so basically, no, other than, about my work maybe?
Yeah, so I think, where can people find you? Because I think, more people, more organisations would drastically benefit from having you in their life.
So the bulk of my work, as I said, is mainly delivering keynote speeches or not workshops, but seminars, that kind of thing. So I'm stood in front of an audience of anything from 20 people sometimes, up to 1,000 people or whatever. And I'm just spouting tools, mindset tools that are helpful for people, that help them to move on and to work more efficiently and effectively. So if people want to get in touch with me, I think the easiest route is to go to my website, which is Hotowka.
I got that completely wrong, didn't I?
That's it. No, that's fine. Don't worry. It was because
These two didn't help me though, did they?
I know.
Paul normally starts off the questions, John.
well, normally I tell you what,
Just left me hanging, didn't you?
I was going to say,
How
you
can
know,
I
when we
walk it?
started today, we usually go, right, we're back. And I was going to go, Leon, and who we got today?
It's John Smith, pronounced Smith. So Hotowka, that's HOTOWKA.co.uk. By the way, that doesn't mean that my name's Hotowka Cook. That is just the .co for the website bit. So that's HOTO. I forgot myself. HOTOWKA.co.uk.
We'll have a blog going out and we'll put some links to your website and stuff. But I just want to thank you for the bottom of my heart. It's been incredible to have you on. And also, I want to thank you even especially because you've come out to see us, and I think it wouldn't have had the same level of energy if you hadn't been
Oh,
at home.
no,
So,
I mean, I would rather. I'm glad that we did it in the room, and it's been a real joy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, brilliant.
And we've had so much fun. I mean, it's not just the information I've had, but it's been the banter as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's usually when you saw me speaking. Okay,
That's what I remember.
there's information there, but there's also like a little bit of banter.
Yeah.
We're having some fun, and for me, that helps with the learning as well.
yeah, no, I love it. Absolutely love it. So
Thank you.
that's Leon checking out.
Yeah, it's John Hotowka checking out.
It's Dean checking out.
Paul checking out.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome to The Hack, the straight-talking smart tech podcast where we discuss the ever-changing world we live in today. It's time to start thinking differently. So tune in and buckle up for some home truths as Hull and East Yorkshire's very own digital tech experts talk transformation and change, focusing on people, process and technology.